What's something that worked well, but was gotten rid of anyway? The public library in my hometown was open 2 nights per week until 8 p.m, as well as Saturdays for the convenience of library users with day jobs. Now the library closes at 5 p.m. daily and is no longer open on weekends in an effort to cut back on staff hours and expense. Thus, it's deserted. I'll never understand why so many public places close at 5. That's when everyone is free. Actual physical buttons in the car. All touchscreen is much harder, impossible to operate without taking the eyes off the street while driving. Tesla is the best example for it. Yes, frick touchscreens. The solution is obviously to just drive older and older cars. California tried to implement a system of simple tax filing for state income tax. California would mail you a tax statement every year. You look at it, make any changes, mail it back. It reduced costs by millions for both the state and the residents. They did it for 2 years as a test. If I recall correctly, TurboTax and H&R Block lobbied the frick out of California state legislators to go back to the old way, and they did. The British created our own little space rocket called the Black Arrow to launch our satellites. In true British style though, they canned the project the day before the first proper launch and decided to pay the Americans too much money to launch stuff instead. Sounds like the Avro Arrow in Canada. My dad had a fairly new Cadillac about half a decade back. It ran into an issue where the check engine light would come on even though nothing was wrong. When he brought it to a shop, as far as I remember they could shut it off but it would come back on soon after, and they said it was an issue that would cost quite a bit to permanently fix. He didn't want to spend the money to fix it, and it couldn't pass emissions tests with the light on, so he gave it away, for free, to a friend and bought a new car. I will never understand his logic, hahaha. It's silly, but if it doesn't pass inspection, it's not legally drivable and only good for parts. I had to scrap a fine running Cavalier because the front end was too bent to pass. Target's medicine containers. They were easy to use, read, and actually looked attractive design wise. However, when CVS bought their pharmacy, they promptly discarded the design, and now all bottles look like regular old, confusing and ugly medicine bottles. I agree, I hate the CVS ones. I don't know about other places, but in my city we had streetcars that were successful and operating, but General Motors bought them all and bankrupted them with, likely intentional, mismanagement so they could promote car lifestyles and sell more vehicles. Did it all over the US. Now we have a ton of traffic problems and are spending billions on putting trains and streetcars back because they are a more efficient mode of transportation. I know that we certainly wouldn't still be running the same trains from the 30s and would have had to spend the money to replace them, but we're now also paying insanely high amounts to redesign roads and acquire property. Opioids work really well, but we fricked that up pretty bad. Maybe because they work really well, now we're going to have to get rid of a lot of them, even the ones people need. Betamax. It had better picture quality than VHS, but 1 stroke to the recording time and for almost double the price. VHS better price point won out, but you could argue that Betamax was superior. Pros still use Betamax for years, even if consumer players were discontinued. I think they only stopped manufacturing blank beta tapes relatively recently. Those little triangular windows, parts of windows, in cars. I don't remember what they were called, but they worked. You could get some fresh air without the helicopter noise and hurricane force winds you get when you open car windows a little now. Also a lifesaver if you're my family and your dad frequently locked the keys in the car while you were on vacation 3 states over. The amount of times I had to shove my whole arm through one and try to reach the unlock button. Clone High. One of my favorite shows of all time taken off the air because of some people complaining about how they portrayed Gandhi's fictional clone. Hey, Lord and Miller went on to do other great things while Bill Lawrence and about half of the cast went on to make Scrubs, so it's not like nothing good came of it. But yeah, that show really could have gone on for a couple more seasons and been great. Voting with pen and paper, or by punching a hole in a paper ballot. Nice and simple, easy for everyone to understand how it works and whether it is being tampered with. Instead, we have electronic voting, which can easily be tampered with, and has been at least a little. We're pretty confident it hasn't been tampered with on a large scale, and personally I genuinely believe it has not, but how would we know? Yes, there were user interface problems with some of the paper voting systems, like the butterfly ballots in Florida in the 2000 election, but there are also confusing user interfaces on electronic voting machines. So switching to electronic voting didn't actually solve that problem. The Oxford comma. It actually works better than its replacement, which is no comma at all. I still don't understand why this was an issue. I haven't ever come across a single time where the Oxford comma caused confusion, but the lack of one causes trouble in very simple sentences. I went to get the strippers, Hitler and Stalin. I use it anyway, grammar be damned. I might sound like an oldie here, but movie game rental stores, sure. Streaming is more convenient, and on services like Amazon you can rent just about any movie, but the combination of selection prices length of rentals was hard to beat. Redbox and Netflix have crap selection, and Amazon movie rentals are way too expensive when you only have one day to watch the movie. Windows 7. Microsoft finally got it right, and then ditched it for the more intrusive, less intuitive Windows 10. I guess engineers have to keep busy. Drive-in theaters. They were so cool. You just paid at the ticket gate. Young people hung out hooked up in their cars. No one had a problem. Turn the radio to the station of the movie and sit in your car or on top of the car and watch the movie. They had concession you could walk to. It was wooded area, and people from nearby houses would sit on their roofs with radios and watch movies. Customization of applications. I remember back in Windows 98 I could make an HTML page for a folder. Didn't have to tweak registry settings to keep the GUI from messing with my view options, and could control a ton of features very easily in the control panel. Nowadays it's all about accessibility and uniformity. I have used Norton's antivirus products for years. Back in the day it never got in my way at all and I could easily access all its features. The modern version of Norton's 360 doesn't even have a UI to access everything. If you want to exclude something it auto deletes, you have to actually search for it in an app. Zune. Specifically the software music player. It was super high quality, managed by a small but very personable team, and did Spotify years before Spotify did and better. You got to pick and keep several songs a month, DRM free, of your choice that were yours, even if you left the service. What killed it? Microsoft realized that they had two media players they were promoting. The piece of garbage known as Windows Media Player, which can't even handle more than a couple of gigs of music, and Zune. So Microsoft put both projects in front of some senior manager and said one goes. Did I mention that the manager of the WMP team was a long-term friend of the senior manager picking the winner? Yup, last I heard, the Zune software, despite carrying a warning that it is no longer supported by Microsoft and is out of date, is one of the more frequently downloaded pieces of software from Microsoft's site. Sheathing houses with 1-inch boards. It was easier to sheathe a house without a crew or a lift because the individual boards were manageable. This meant a motivated dad could build his own house. 1-inch sheathed houses had great nailers for siding, no finding studs, and the lumber could be milled locally. Plywood OSB brings major chemical companies in on the $sign while I see men in ice saw logs chipped or turned into firewood that would have been milled back when. IDK what's up with McAllister's, but if I ever grow to like anything there, they take it off the menu. Even the top selling stuff. I never understood. Things they've removed since I've become a regular customer. Pot roast spud, green tea, the berry salad thing, BBQ nachos. All my favorite things except the green tea. But my mom always got that. The brand Pledge used to make these felt rollers to clean pet hair off couches that were amazing, but they were discontinued without any good reason. I still think about them fondly. Crank windows on cars and manually adjustable seats. I understand the advantages to having power versions of both, but as a person who either keeps cars until they are really old or buys them old in the first place, I can tell you that I've never had a window crank or a manual seat lever fail. My sister has a driver's seat on her car that will no longer move backward, and to fix it would cost $1,200. The labor cost of taking apart a car door so you can replace a faulty window switch is pretty high too. So it's fine for you folks who are willing and able to pay to fix stuff like that. But for those of us who don't have the money and just want something that works practically forever, it would be nice if they still made the manual versions of windows and seats. Pensions. Employers said pay $X month now and we'll pay you $Y month upon retirement. We replaced that reliable system with 401(k)s. Held in funds and usually self-managed with no guaranteed return on investment. The benefit of 401(k)s is that they're tax deferred up to $18,000 per year. However, I hear the current administration plans on capping those tax deferred contributions at $2,400 per year. Good luck ever retiring, fellow Americans. How any website was blazing fast before they clunked it with unnecessary additions for flash and flare. Anything with an animated logo that signifies the loading before getting to the next page takes a lot longer than before it was added. Google did this. Reddit did this. Facebook did this. Every little function takes just a handful of seconds to get to, and they're bridged with these stupid animations. It used to be boom you're there, boom you're done. As of this month, the Kinect. I know it has flaws and criticism, but you can't deny that Wipeout Kinect and Kinect Adventures wasn't a blast. It has so much potential and way ahead of its time, but Microsoft drove it into the ground and has not nailed the coffin. RIP the Kinect. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. They were 4 for 4 writing and directing hit movies, yet got fired off the set of the Han Solo Star Wars film. I just want another season of Clone High. City of Heroes. That game was freaking awesome. They had the world record for most expansions to an MMORPG, on their way to releasing the 24th when NCSoft dissolved the studio. Sunrise Am. It was the only to-do scheduler that worked for me. It kept a common calendar between my phone, PC, laptop, tablet on the cloud. Adding an event was 2 clicks. Making repeat events was a breeze. I could copy and paste events, look up shared calendars, merge my Google, Outlook, Facebook calendars into one place. Then Microsoft bought them out and killed it, adding some features into Outlook. Frick Outlook, worthless piece of crap. Call customer service support. You clearly are calling to talk to a person about an issue, not a robot. Then you're pressing all of these options, which may lead to a dead end and you have to call back and try different options. The companies are trying to get rid of people to save money, but are creating headaches for their clientele. I have several from older American cars. 1. Foot switch single direction stalk movement to dim headlights. This one drives me absolutely nuts. Why the heck does the dang switch have to be so complicated? It was a floor switch. It was in the same place in every car that had one. You pushed it. That's it. Simple and dead. 2. Column shifted automatic transmission. This just makes sense. It gets that dank thing off the floor, allowing more room for cup holders storage. It's also vastly easier to execute K-turns because you don't have to fumble for the stupid shifter, as it's right there in front of you. 3. Every stupid control, all 4,000 of the dang things, on stalks on the steering wheel. Half of those controls. I don't need all that often. I don't need a headlight control on the turn signal stalk. It used to be a knob on the dash, and it took up very little space there. If the stupid front and rear windshield wipers weren't on a stalk all their own, I would have room for that aforementioned column shifter, but also wouldn't constantly screw up which frigging wipers I'm starting, or window I'm washing. The front wipers can be on with the turn signals, and a small switch could be on the dash for the rear wipers. 4. Simple stock car radios. I don't need my car to play Crisis. I want a simple FM radio with a CD player. I'd prefer a tape deck, but that's just me. And yes, physical media preferred here to use. I just don't need any of that other junk. No, I'm not old. I'm a younger person who just drives an older car every day, and I'm surprised that given how common and dang near standardized these things were, why it went away. It isn't hard to use your foot to dim the lights, and a column shift automatic transmission with fewer needless controls on the column isn't all that hard to contend with. That being said, I can say that column shifter manual isn't at all the same. Thank goodness that is dead. Marijuana. It worked well as a medicine and recreational drug for about 5 millenniums, but then the US banned it and other countries followed. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.